everybody.
Hello, hello. I'm very excited to be here with you all. Today we're going to talk about podcasting and audio with you guys for the next 15 minutes. I'm Jeremy. I'm the co-founder of Red Circle. Red Circle is a platform for brands to scale their message through podcasting, through authentic host-read ads. And Brittany knows a lot about this, so I'm very excited to chat with you. We start with you introducing yourself and your background at BetterHelp.
Sure. Who has heard of BetterHelp? All right. Who listens to podcasts? Okay, good group, right? And who has advertised in podcast? Perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Hopefully this is going to be a really great 15 minutes for you guys. I'm Brittany. I'm a senior director of growth marketing at BetterHelp. I've been there for 5 years. I am most notable for scaling our audio program, and we have been the largest spender in podcasts for the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's been really impressive to watch. Why don't we start there? How did BetterHelp find itself in podcasting?
Yeah, before I got to the company, we had a former head of growth, and he was just super test heavy, testing everything. We were already pretty heavy in our click channels, right? Like Meta, Google search. But he tried this little thing called podcast, and it took off. And very quickly, they realized it would be a really good idea. They, really smart move by them pretty early on hiring an audio specialist to scale the channel specifically. And it really led the way for us to continue scaling a lot of our other like non-click channel advertising, TV, radio, really led the way.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And I'm sure a lot of folks here are already naturally spending in those click channels, whether it's Meta, search. How did you guys view podcasting against those channels? What kind of goals were you setting early on? I'm sure not necessarily the same, but maybe you can provide more color.
Yeah. And my background before I was at BetterHelp, I was at one of the top 3 global agencies for podcast advertising. And prior to that, I did advertising sales. So I've kind of, before that, I was also on the brand side. I came back home to be on the brand side. It's really nice to be back. And so I really looked at podcasts really from all sides, and immediately it was just a growth lever and so much scalability. Formerly, when I have placed, print, radio, TV, digital, social for brands, it's easy to brush aside a new channel and really not even test it. But once you do, it's really unbelievable what can happen. You can utilize the channel in so many different ways: upper funnel, lower funnel. You can do audience targeting. You can do host-read ads. If you just want straight growth and scale from podcast, it's very manual. So I do say a lot, there are some barriers to entry, which is why you want to find a Red Circle, like a great platform that can actually make it a lot more simple for you to get started in the channel. You want to find, an ad agency or a consultant, because sometimes figuring it out is really just going to waste time, and you need to go to the people that can get you where you need to be on the shows you want to be on, especially with host-read advertising. So depending on your goals at the moment, obviously we all want growth. Obviously we all want conversions. Podcast is phenomenal for that. And then once you mature in the space, we've been advertising over the last 5 years, $200 million in the space. You start to reach a little bit of a point of saturation with host-read ads, and that's where you can really start getting creative, and podcasting is still evolving. And so now there is a lot more opportunity to specifically audience target, find those segments, and also even dynamic ad creative is becoming a thing in audio, where you can serve creative to your target audience in a succession of ads designed to move them down the funnel. People have been doing that in digital for years. We're finally getting that in audio. So we're a little bit behind digital, but we're really getting there, and watching the evolution in the space as one of the biggest vendors has been really great for our business.
I feel like you covered a lot there. So
yeah, that was a lot. Sorry, guys.
Let's unpack. For a brand that's entering into the channel, what are, and maybe you can reference BetterHelp too, but what are some of the goals or metrics you want to look at, and ad formats too. You mentioned a few different strategies there, whether it's host read or audience targeting. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I think testing, I always tell people come into podcast and you can expect a few things. Some of them are going to crush it. Some of them are going to be okay. And some of them are going to be just totally suck, right? And you have to be test heavy to really figure out what's going to work for your brand. Bless you. Host read ads they're always going to work the best. Just, like OG was talking about earlier, utilizing.
What is a host read ad?
Yeah, a host read ad is when you have the host of a show and they are hopefully endorsing your product. Endorsement certainly works the best. But I work for a mental health company and we can't force you to endorse our product. But even if you want to read about it and talk about mental health, it's super impactful. So I definitely recommend starting with host read ads. Dynamic insertion, programmatic, where you're kind of running more on like an automated basis, that can be with the host's voice or it can be with a voiceover, is also a really great tactic if you want to turn up the reach, get a lower CPM because it doesn't have that host endorsement. Refine your audience targeting within those tactics is also something that I think brands should test early on. I think everybody focuses on host read, and they should, but the sooner you get really good at diversifying like your portfolio of tactics in audio, I think the faster you're going to be able to scale.
Makes a ton of sense. And BetterHelp had already been spending in the channel, I think, when you arrived, but maybe you could touch on to just how should folks view audio against other channels as maybe a percentage of their marketing mix? Like when is it the right time to get there? Sometimes brands will come to us and they're not spending on any channel. Can podcasting be a first channel? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I just think anytime you have the opportunity to have someone endorse your brand, whether it's an influencer on Meta or it's a podcaster with a really engaged listener, it should be early in your channel mix if possible. It's even easier to measure if you have not scaled TV, if you haven't scaled, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising. And so launching new tactics at that level, it's difficult to measure. But if you are early in your channel mix, podcast is fantastic. I love to share this because it just kind of blows people's minds. Earlier on in my career at BetterHelp, when I was really scaling podcast, our CPA was actually lower than paid search. It was lower than people that were going to paid search, searching for online therapy. That is mind-blowing. And that's because you are combining the power of on-demand media. Like people are seeking out these shows, right? Like they are wanting to listen to these podcast hosts. Combine that with the old school power of endorsement, and you just have an explosive channel. And getting good at it quickly is necessary. So I think it should be part of anybody's channel mix. As we've scaled other channels, especially globally, my percentage of overall spend is a little bit lower, but it's still one of the most efficient channels in the company, which is really cool to see. Yeah, even after 5 years, it's still crushing it. But we've scaled other channels, so our spend on pod is a little bit smaller piece of the pie now.
Yeah, that's incredible. Good to know. How do you look at measurement, I guess? I know it's evolved over the years inside the channel, but maybe you could walk through a little bit about measurement and what the common ways are to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Podcast is scrappy. We have to get a little scrappy because, we are a little bit behind digital channels. We do have pixels. It's typically measured on promo code, URLs, how did you hear about a survey? So a little bit archaic there, kind of mirrors radio, but it's effective. And why is it effective? Because in a survey, if you ask people, how did you hear about us? They are more likely to answer that question correctly if they came from a podcast. Why is that? Because they want to give their podcast host credit. Their host is likely telling them like, hey, I make sure you told them I sent you because, these people are paying my bills, right? So they love to give their hosts credit. So it was a little bit easier on last click. Actually, it was a lot easier on last click for me back in the day to get a signal from promo codes, URLs, and Heidi Howe survey. These days, pixels are certainly a thing. in podcasts. They have the methodologies have really developed with a lot of our third-party partners. So pixels are also super valuable these days as well.
And those pixels tracking household IPs, that's right. And when you think about, I guess maybe the advantages, what makes podcasting different, and why do you think it's been so efficient for you guys?
I think there are a lot of answers to that question. Aside from the power of endorsement and just the relationship that these people have, I really think the engagement and just how, like, you know, if I'm going back to my old days and, you know, obviously you want to buy TV, you want to buy out of home, right? Like you really want to, for brand awareness and to start moving people down the funnel, you really want to be everywhere. But podcasts, just these people are in a different state of being when they're engaging with these ads. Like when they hear your ads, like they are some of the most engaged ears or eyes now that YouTube is the number one platform for consumption of podcasts. They are just so highly engaged. So if I right now I'm managing all of audio at BetterHelp, but if I was managing other channels and I had to put my money on, should I spend here? Should I spend here? Should I spend here? If I have a number of KPIs ranging from brand KPIs to performance KPIs, I would put that money on podcast all day, every day.
That's really interesting. Well, that's great to hear. What are some of the campaigns that you've run over the years that you've been most proud of and maybe most surprised by?
Ooh, so I love this question. Podcast is a place also where you can convert new audiences, again, because of that power of endorsement, right? Traditionally, if we, would run ads for therapy on Facebook, we wouldn't always get the greatest response. We wouldn't get a lot of great comments, right? Targeting men who maybe traditionally weren't as open to talking about therapy and mental health. Early on, I got to BetterHelp and I told my boss, close your eyes, I'm going to go buy every ad at Barstool Sports. And he was like, oh my God, what? I said, just trust, it's going to work. Going back to OG again, sometimes it's all about gut, right? And every single one of their shows, except one, hit my CPA goal month 1 or 2. And that's because, again, the power of endorsement. They started converting new audiences that traditionally our other channels were not able to convert. So that one I'm super proud of. It's a very well-known story in the audio industry because it really has helped other brands recognize, if you do have a product that can serve more people, you just haven't necessarily been able to convert them. Podcast is definitely the place that you can do that.
And do you think that was because of the personal or endorsement? I guess you can't have the personal endorsement in that scenario, but the host, it's someone they trust. What do you think the big difference was? Yeah,
and we do, we have hosts that endorse and we have hosts that don't endorse. We have hosts that endorse therapy and they have their own therapist, but they don't use BetterHelp. So the endorsement definitely can help, but so interestingly that just that relationship is so powerful. And like you said, that trust is so powerful between the listener and the show host that endorsement oftentimes isn't always necessary to scale a brand in the channel. They can just kind of talk about it, with favorability, could talk about why they love the company, working with the company, and it works just as well. But yeah, that trust is with Barstool specifically as an example. I mean, I can give hundreds to thousands of show and network examples that really have this same relationship. But, Barstool Sports, if they're going to be talking to their audience is going to respond to anything. They really love them.
Yeah, and maybe I'm also curious. We've been talking a little bit about creative in the last conversation. How can people view podcasting from a place of testing different creative? I think radio, sometimes you hear like the one pre-produced ad. Podcasting is a little different. Maybe you could speak to that and what's worked and what kind of experimentation can take place in the channel.
Yeah, and that's actually why I love your offering so much at Red Circle, because you guys do offer different creative abilities from host-read ads to running pre-produced and programmatic. Recently, we've done host-read ads forever, and if you listen to podcasts, any number of shows you likely hear us all the time kind of with the same format, lots of host-read ads. So recently, we set out to create a new type of pre-produced ad, not just with a voiceover, but we wanted to focus on creating a moment for people, right? Because you hear BetterHelp in pod, and it's just the same, it's the same thing. People hosts are saying, oh my God, try therapy. BetterHelp is amazing. So we did what's called immersive audio. When you listen to it in your headphones, it sounds like the sounds are coming from all different areas. Really beautiful spot. Had a really powerful one-liner talking about, just encourage people to take a few seconds of self-care, take a deep breath, relax your shoulders. And then it says that was 15 seconds of self-care. Imagine more. Performance blew up. And so far I've been able to scale it. It's a really new campaign. I've been able to scale it to a couple $100,000 a month across a few markets. And yeah, so creative is kind of an evolution in podcast, right? Like you can start with those wonderful host-read ads, but the creative opportunities with, certain audience targeting abilities, as you continue in the space, you can really unlock a lot there.
That's awesome. I know I think we're already at time here. I'm getting the nudge, right? But anything you'd want to leave folks here with when maybe they're thinking about podcasting or they're already in the channel? Any last thoughts as the expert?
Yeah. If you don't know, I love podcasts. It's not that clear yet. I really can't speak enough about just the brands that I've watched it change brands and people's lives. Truly, like it's a space where we're all really inspired in that space. Jeremy and I were just at a conference recently, a few weeks ago, with thousands of people in the industry. It's a really inspiring place, much like working with influencers. It is a place that you can go wherever you are in the life cycle of your brand, and it can really have lasting, impactful change. I've watched really small brands completely scale off of podcast alone, and then it unlocks a lot of growth opportunity, for other marketing channels just off of the profitability of the channel. And also find an expert. You're going to save a lot of time. I am an agency girl. I have brands that come up to me and they're like, God, I wish you could fire your agencies. I'm like, oh my God, no, I literally I can't survive without them. They can do it better than you, quicker than you, and more efficiently than you, just because you've never done it before. And don't spend the time figuring it out. Go to a red circle, go to an agency, go to a brand. I have brands that come into my inbox all the time to ask questions, figure out how to get started, find a consultant, and don't waste any time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you want to chat about podcasting, we're here.